we're going to start with something underneath our shoulder blades the horizontal way. So if you have a book or a pillow or a block, anything you've got, you're going to place it behind you so that it rests right underneath your shoulder blades as you lie down. And we'll take the head into the hands, interlacing the fingers, so just support the head, lean back to whatever amount feels comfortable. You can have the elbows in really tight. That's going to be the nicest for tighter shoulders. Opening out is going to be a lot more opening on the chest tissue. So find whatever feels good arm-wise and just allow yourself to rock maybe a little bit side to side, rocking onto the shoulder blades and then getting a little bit of this thoracic extension because we're draping over the block. So we're getting a little bit of extension in the mid upper back, the thoracic spine. You can add any type of movement here, a little side bend, a little twist. If it feels good, you can play around with starting to open the elbows out a little bit wider. You might hear some clicks or little adjustments or things moving around. Getting into some maybe restricted tissues and just helping to open it up because we're going to be moving the spine a lot. And then go ahead and just roll to one side and remove the block from underneath the shoulder blades. And now we'll take the block between the knees, whatever width feels best, thinnest, medium way, and really feel that triple S here before we start. So base of the skull, shoulder blades, and sacrum. Give the block just a gentle hug. Start by curling your tailbone up, like you're taking a marble and trying to roll it towards your belly button by lifting the tailbone up, and then move super slowly, like you're lifting just one vertebra off the ground at a time. Keep that hug on the block, staying low in your bridge, drawing the pelvic points in, and from that bridge, do the opposite, lower down one vertebra at a time. Like one little part of the spine is going to touch the mat at a time, all the way until you feel the sacrum right above your tailbone. So let's keep rolling in and out of bridge, this nice segmental movement for the spine. And take note of any areas that feel sticky, like they want to move all in one chunk, like you want to move really quickly down, and areas where you feel like it's hard to slow down and feel that movement of one vertebra at a time. And that just kind of keys you into some areas of the spine that might need a little bit of mobility. The next time you slowly lift into your bridge, let's hold there, keeping that hug on the block, pelvic points drawing in. Take the right hand, stretch out your left wrist. So right fingers to the left. Fingers pull back, getting that wrist extension. Keep the pelvic points drawing in. Switch hands. Left finger, stretch out the right wrist. Keep the shoulder blades on the ground. Breathe into the ribs, front, side, and back. Hands are going to come to your front ribs. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, hold the ribs in toward the body one more time. Tiptoe the spine down. One vertebra at a time tries to touch the mat. And once you lower down, you can kind of wiggle a little bit. We'll take the block and maybe put it the thinner way if you'd like to adjust, keeping the feet down, hands behind the head, elbows up, pointing up toward the ceiling or pointing in toward each other or in toward the forehead. Take a breath in and feel that you can keep the shoulder blades on the mat as you inhale. Exhale, feel your front ribs pull in toward the body, hug the block, lift just enough that you get off the shoulder blades without cranking the neck. So we're actually just leaning the head back into the hands. Inhale and lower down. Exhale, Feel those front ribs pull down. Keep the back ribs touching the mat. Hug the block. Inhale to lower down. Exhale, hug the block, ribs pull down. Spine is staying long, so we're not curling the spine to lift. Inhale and lower down. Let's add a twist. Exhale, lift, front ribs pull in, hug the block. Keep the back of the neck long, chin is slightly toward the throat. Turn your rib cage or the center of your chest 1 inch to the left. Stay lifted off that left shoulder blade like you're lifting that left elbow up. Bring it back to center. Inhale and lower. Exhale, lift, hug the block, feel the front ribs pull down. Keep feeling the back ribs on the ground. Back of the neck stays long. Turn the center of the chest 1 inch to the right. Lift that right elbow up, lifting up the right shoulder blade. Bring it back to center. Inhale and lower down. Release that. Let's remove the block. We're going to take the block as we turn over to our right side. Land your left knee on the block, or you can just put the block between the knees. Arms are going to reach over to the side. Let's do a little thoracic rotation. Inhale, open that left arm up and back. You could also bend the left elbow in a goalpost. Exhale it, bring it back over. Inhale, left arm up and back, rotating through the ribs. This is thoracic rotation. Exhale it back over. Try to keep the movement out of the low back and focus on the turning of the rib cage. If it feels good, you can turn the head and neck with it, involving the cervical spine, but only if that feels nice. Switching sides, let's turn to the other side. Roll onto your left side. You can keep the block between the knees, or you can land that right inner knee on the block. Arms reach over to the side. Inhale, right arm turns, and you turn the ribs. Exhale it over. Inhale, turn through the ribs, open that right arm. Moving at your own pace with the breath. Try to keep that right hip stacking over the left so that the right hip isn't moving around. We want to keep this movement in the mid and upper back, turning through the thoracic spine. Good. From here, you can go ahead and just roll from your side into quadrupeds. We'll come facing the front of the mat for quadruped, hands and knees. Shoulders over your wrists, or you could come to fist. Let's slide the knees in pretty tight and align the neck here. So chin is slightly toward the throat, ears are at the same height as your shoulders. We're going to start with some lateral flexion, so side bending in the spine segmentally, so one part at a time. We're going to start with our lower back. So picture that your tailbone actually has a tail, and just try to curl the low back side to side, like you're just wagging your tail, but try to isolate it to just kind of the hips and low back. So this is lateral flexion, side bending. But now let's add on the rib cage. Let the rib cage start arcing with it, almost like you're trying to turn your body into a C shape from side to side. So now the upper body's kind of getting involved. And then to finish it off, you can involve the head and neck like you're trying to turn and look towards your tail as you kind of do that C shape side to side. Or ear to shoulder. And then come back to center and let's cat-cow. Spinal flexion and extension. All right, let's come to the top of the mat. Getting ready for our first sun salutation. So come to a standing position and let's really focus on our spine in neutral here. So feeling that stack, ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the rib cage, or rib cage over the pelvis. Let the knees soften so that you can feel that stack instead of feeling like we're really overextended. Reach the arms forward and up and feel your armpits lift up and away from the ground, but keep your ribs in like we did in our core work. Hinge at the hips. Keep that feeling of length in the spine all the way forward. Right foot steps back. Lower the knee and the top of the foot. We're in our 90-90. Lift up. Right glute is firm. Let's feel that same stack here. Ears over the shoulders, over the ribs, over the pelvis. And let's roll one shoulder back at a time. Let the movement get as big as you want to free up some tight tissue around the shoulders and upper back, but hold that stability in the pelvis and in the hips. Hands come down for quadruped. Pause here. We're going to segmentally cat-cow. So from quadruped, start our cow portion of spinal extension with the pelvis. Tip it forward. Now let's really soften the chest down. Ribs lower down. And then let the chin lift up. So this is spinal extension. Now let's do the opposite. Chin down. Press the ground away. Protract the shoulder blades. Round the mid back. And then try to tuck the tailbone under. Good. One normal or regular cat-cow like we usually do. Arch the back. And then round the back. Good. Step your right foot forward. Left knee stays down. We lift up. Find that neutral spine. Picture that broom behind you touching your triple S. Left glute firm. Let's roll one shoulder back at a time. Allow the movement to be as big as it feels good in the neck, in the shoulders, in any rotation in the ribs, but draw those pelvic points in, zipper that pubic bone up. Hands come forward or to blocks. Left foot steps forward to meet the right, bent knee forward fold. Push down into the feet, lengthen the spine as you rise up. Shoulder blades lift, but we keep the ribs in. Bend the knees, hinge, lengthen the spine, hands come to the ground or blocks. Left foot steps back, lower the knee, but not the toes. We're in our 90-90. Lift up, feel that stack. Picture that broom. Let's bring right hand to the sacrum, left arm up. Lift that left armpit up and away from the ground. Feel the shoulder blade lift up, feel the fingertips lift up, but keep the ribs in. Hands come down, quadruped, segmental cat-cow. Start at the pelvis, so low back is gonna arch. We're gonna tip that pelvis forward, and then really soften the chest down without bending the elbows. Lift the chin. Now the opposite, we slowly round the back, chin in, press the ground away, lift the ribs up, and then tuck the tailbone. Regular cat-cow like we usually do, arch the back, inhale. Exhale, round. Good. Left foot steps forward. 90-90. We tuck the right toes. Lift up. We're in this 90-90. We've got ears over the shoulders, over the ribs, over the pelvis. Right glute's got a little squeeze. Left hand to the sacrum. Right arm up. Get that lift like somebody is lifting you up by that right arm. Our right fingertips lift, but we keep the ribs in. Tailbone reaches down. Hands come forward or to blocks. Right foot steps forward to meet the left. Spine stays long by bending the knees. Push the ground away, rise up. Good, let's start our sequence. Exhale, hinge, spine stays long. Hands to the ground or blocks. Right foot steps back, lower the knee but not the toes. Let's come into our 90-90 for a moment and really feel that stack. Ribs over the pelvis, pelvic points drawing in. Right glute's probably got a little activity to it. We're going to bring our right hand to a block or whatever we've got so that our right shoulder is over the right wrist. Secure that right shoulder. Bring your left hand to the front ribs. Little hug in, pull those ribs up toward the body, and then keep the ribs like that as you turn them slightly toward the left. So toward that front leg, thoracic rotation, keep the glutes working. Maybe we start dropping that right ear to the shoulder. So that's a little bit of lateral flexion in the neck, the cervical spine. Keep the ribs in and think about breathing into your left side of your lower back or mid back. Good, let's unwind, lift up, maybe by bringing the hands to a block, and turn to the right facing the side of the mat. Parallel the feet. Let's bring hands to triple S, skull and sacrum. Keep the ribs in as we side lunge. So we're focused on moving the hips with our spine in neutral. So we want to feel that stack of our ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the rib cage over the pelvis. Let's turn to the front of the mat for quadruped. You are welcome to have both hands on blocks or pillows or anything to lift your hands a little bit. We're going to step our left foot out toward the left side of the mat. So our left foot's going to step out as much as you can to the left. Toes can turn out, so hip is externally rotated. And then bring that left knee back under you into quadruped. Step the right foot out, so we're externally rotating the hip. Wherever it lands is all right. And then step it down, back into quadruped. Left foot steps out to the left, and then pause here. Take your left arm, reach it up toward the ceiling. Keep that right shoulder strong. Bring it down. Left knee back underneath you. Right foot steps out. We externally rotate the hip a comfortable amount. Secure the left shoulder. Reach the right arm up. Good. Hand comes down. Right knee comes back underneath you. Let's take down dog. If the hands are elevated for down dog, that's great. Here to really feel that lift and neutral spine. If you'd like, you can pedal the feet out here, stretching one heel down at a time. Keep the ribs lifted in towards you so that we don't sink the shoulders and the armpits down. Walk your hands back towards you and think about trying to touch your belly towards your thighs by bending the knees. So you've got that nice triple flexion in the ankles, knees, and hips. Head's gonna release here. So let the neck release, little hang and traction for the cervical spine, but keep the legs active. So feet are pressing into the ground. We've got the support of the legs here to allow this just dangle of the head. And then push the ground away. Think about that broom behind your back as you rise up. So really using the glutes and the legs. Pause here. Let's bring hands to triple S again. So skull and sacrum. Keep the ribs in. So hold our stack. And let's pick up the left foot. Any amount, flexing that left hip, stabilizing through the right hip. Step it forward. Long spine, neutral spine. Right foot picks up. We're flexing the hip. Hold that left side, standing leg strong. Step it forward. Pick up the left foot. Spine tries not to change. Step it forward so we're not moving through the low back. Pick up the right foot. Step it forward. Release the hands. Let's get ready to do the second side. So you can move your blocks or your props or whatever you've got. And let's reach the arms forward and up. Reach those armpits up toward the ears. Keep that feeling of the broom behind you. Belly to thighs by bending the knees. Keep that triple S. Left foot steps back. Lower the knee, not the toes. We're in our 90-90. Toes are tucked. Ears over the shoulders, over the ribs, over the pelvis. Left foot's got a little firmness to it. Take your left hand down to the block. Shoulder over the wrist. Secure that left shoulder. Now take your right hand to the front ribs. Keep them lifted in toward the body as we turn the ribs, so turning the thoracic spine, maybe just an inch to the right. Hold that left shoulder still. If it feels good to let the head release here, any amount left ear to the left shoulder, adding that lateral flexion, that side bend into the neck. Yeah. Breathe into the right side of your back, right side of the torso. Let's come back to center or unwind. Maybe we use the block to lift. We're going to turn to the left side of the mat. Side lunges, hands come to skull and sacrum. So really feel the skull lean back into the hands and keep the neck aligned over the shoulders as we side lunge. So each part of the spine, the cervical spine, the neck is staying neutral. The thoracic spine, where the rib cage is going to stay neutral. The pelvis, the low back, the lumbar spine is going to stay neutral. And we're just moving the hips. Let's turn it back toward the front of the mat, quadruped. Maybe hands come to blocks or cans, anything to elevate your hands. That'll give your hips more space to move here. So we step right foot out to the side, any amount. This time we're going to add a sweep or a circle of the arm. So instead of just reaching up, I still want you to secure that left shoulder, but we're going to take the right arm, sweep it back toward the back of the mat, up and over. Really feel that reach through the fingertips and then bring it down. Now the knee comes down. Externally rotate the left hip. Sweep it from the back of the mat up and over. Push down into the right fingertips. So keep going. We're going to do a couple more. And as much as you can, find this big sweep. So we're getting more motion for the spine this time. Bigger movement, bigger range of motion. Maybe you've got more ability to do that. Good, making our way into down dog. Tuck the toes, maybe hands stay elevated. Feel that connection as we lift the hips of belly to thigh. So our spine isn't arching to get the belly to thigh. Spine is staying neutral. We're keeping the hips flexed, so that pull of the torso toward the thighs as we lift the hips, stretching through that neutral triple S. Hands walk back toward the feet. Be mindful of that connection, that hip flexion, belly to thighs as we walk it back. Now load your whole foot, push into the big toe, not just rock back onto the heels. Keep the spine neutral, but allow the head to release. You can maybe do little figure eights with the head. You can just yes and no. But really keep the legs active. We're feeling the thighs lift up into the hips. Let's push down into the feet and rise up as if we have that broom behind us. So neutral spine, using the glutes, get back up. Feel that length here. Hands are going to come behind the head this time. So just behind the skull. Feel the head lean back into the hands. Chin is slightly down, ears over the shoulders. Pick up that right foot. Load that left foot. Weight is in the center of the foot. Hold the pelvis still. I want you to turn your ribs. Don't turn your head first, but turn from the center of your chest. Maybe an inch or two to the right. It's teeny tiny. Try not to move the hips. And then unwind. Step it down. Keep feeling that triple F like you have a broom behind you. Pick up the left foot. Feel the weight shift to the center of the right foot. Low back stays still. We turn the ribs. Don't lead with the head or the eyes. Bring it back. Step it forward. So we're going to march or walk our way forward like this. You can always have the ball of the foot down. Keep it a little bit more grounded. But let's really work on just turning through the rib cage. Not turning the whole body. So this is that thoracic rotation. And then step it forward. All right, we're going to head back down into quadruped. And we'll take the right foot, step it out to the right. You're welcome to keep the hands elevated here. Shoulders over the wrist. Let's do a couple adductor rocks here. Free up the inner thighs, around the hips and the low back. So anytime we help to mobilize and strengthen around the hips, that's going to help take some of that effort out of the low back and the lumbar spine. And let's pause here. As long as that feels all right, you can always do this in quadruped, but if it feels good to keep this inner thigh stretch, we'll stay here. Bring the right hand behind the skull. Lift your skull up into the hand. Hold that left shoulder right over the wrist. Turn the ribs maybe 1, maybe 2 inches to the right, but keep pushing down into the left fingertips. And then back to center. Unwinding, push into that left hand, feel the ribs turn, but not the low back. Keep the ribs in toward the body. One more time, push the left hand into the ground, hold that left shoulder strong as you turn the ribs. Should feel like a lot of effort here to keep all those things stable. Let's unwind, bring it back to quadruped and belly roll. So let's get that spine moving in this circular way. Try a couple belly rolls in both directions. And we'll switch left foot steps out to the left. Plant that whole left foot down. Let's add those adductor rocks. Any amount that feels good. Pause. Keep planting that left foot down. Right shoulder is going to stay over that right wrist. Left hand behind the skull. Lift the front of the throat up. Turn the ribs without collapsing or moving that right shoulder. And then bring the chest so it's facing the ground again. Keep the ribs lifted toward the body as you rotate the thoracic spine, holding strong in that right shoulder. One more time. Turn through the ribs. Try not to move excessively through the hips or the low back. And then bring it back down, unwinding that back into quadruped. And again, we'll belly roll. Good, we'll take a high child's pose or a child's pose with the hips further back. If that feels good, you could use the blocks again here. We'll sit the hips back any amount that you could keep the hips right over the knees, maybe using blocks, and we'll walk the hands or the blocks over to the left side or the left corner of the mat. And sit the hips as far back as you'd like, feeling that pull of the right hip back, like you're trying to reach the right shoulder or right armpit forward toward that left side or left corner as much as you can. Pulling the right side of the body to get it as long as you can. And then switch. Walk the hands or your blocks over to the right corner. And find that lateral flexion, that side bend in the spine. Make it look like whatever it looks like, shape-wise or size-wise. But really focus on not collapsing the ribs or the armpits down, but keeping that lift up. Lifting the thigh bones up into the hips, into the pelvis. Good. And then we'll come onto our backs. Knees are welcome to stay bent, or you can extend the legs out. But let's feel that triple S here as we lie down. Feel that length and stretch of the spine, keeping the chin slightly down so the back of the neck is long, like we're being pulled from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Feel the shoulder blades on the ground. Can you feel the back ribs on the ground? Can you feel the sacrum or the back of the pelvis, any part of the lower back on the ground? And just feel that neutral position of the spine. Relax your forehead and your jaw. Take a moment to thank yourself for your practice today. Sending one grateful thought out into the universe.